we met when I was outside Amazon Fresh, which is like opposite here, which is kind of ironic, since this place is like, to me, the polar opposite of everything that Amazon Fresh is all about, which is, you know, I think it's a horrific idea, Amazon Fresh, and this is just wonderful. So can you tell me a little bit about what's going on here for a start?
So this is an urban vertical farm. We all know that farming nowadays needs to change and update itself, so this is the new iteration of it. It's popular in lots of cities across Asia, it's popular in the US, and it's starting to grow in around Europe and in London. And the whole idea is that it's zero transport food. So we can grow things right next to where they need to be consumed. None of our crops here have ever or will ever go in a vehicle, or need to, because they can be taken directly to the local area, the people around here that consume it directly.
Wow.
Everything here is grown under LED lights. The new technology with this now means that the LED lights have almost zero power consumption. They used to be big hot halogen lights, but they're so efficient here that we don't use hardly any energy. The energy comes from sustainable resources as well, so solar and wind power. We don't even use any soil on anything here. So everything here is grown on this grow felt, which is recycled clothing. So it's upcycled material that when we're finished with it can be upcycled again or used again. We try and avoid soil because bizarrely it's quite bad for the environment. We kind of disagree with the idea of digging up lots of soil, sterilising it in large cookers, adding chemicals to it, wrapping it in plastic and driving it around the country, where we can just use this. It's very light, easily stored, there's no wastage whatsoever. Also, we can control the nutrient content of the plants quite easily. I mean, you can see how happy they are there. So we don't use any chemicals in the water they live in. It's just a little bit of seaweed extract. Obviously, we don't need pesticides because we don't have locusts, hopefully. And but it means everything's kind of the best quality it can be. It's delicious and it's nutritious because it's the young phase plants.
Wow. Can you just take us through some of the things you've got here?
Ooh, come into the grow.
Yeah.
So what we do is we grow over 100 different varieties here, but we only grow on demand. So you can see here, it's not a very big space, but because of the speed that things grow, we actually have such an incredible turnover that we can just grow things just in time. So most farmers, they'll throw away about 30% of their stuff because they have to grow it speculatively to see if people want to buy it. But for example, we have lots of salad crops. Now these are simple little pea shoots. You know, you can see the peas at the bottom there. And lots of people see these as kind of, you know, you get them in Michelin-star restaurants and things, but actually they're an incredibly healthy and really easily grown salad crop, packed with iron, full of protein, and they're really healthy. I mean, my big bugbear is a lot of the things that we have in supermarkets are not necessarily there because we traditionally eat them or like to eat them. It's because they ship very well. They can sit in the back of a container for several weeks. This stuff you can't sit in the back of a container for several weeks, but you don't need to because you can actually grow it directly here. Because we do the younger crops, the sprouts and the microherbs, for example, these ones here, they're just coming through. These are lovely little sunflowers. Now you can actually see the little shells on top. So they're normal sunflowers that you have, but you can't have these in the back of a van. But because we grow the little shoots, this is when the plant has got its most nutritional value. So the plant puts all its effort into this first period of its life where it has to get an edge on everyone around it. So rather meanly at this stage, this is where we cut their head off and we take all of that energy away with it. Also means they taste absolutely delicious. So we have a lot of these things which are, you know, big, nutritious, chunky salad crops. We also do a lot of other little things which are sort of the more flavoursome varieties. So we have shiso, we have rocket, we've got broccoli sprouts. I mean, the broccoli, this is just normal broccoli that you would have, but it's just a little baby one, and it tastes amazing, and it's got all the nutritional quality, and more so than you would get from a big normal broccoli floret. There you go. You can munch on
Thank
that.
you.
This is another fun one. So that everybody knows, that's a radish. So again, you normally get the big radish roots, which are lovely and crunchy, but they're mostly water and a bit of sugar and a bit of starch, and they're designed as a starch store for the plant. This has much more flavour. There we go. You're holding the camera. You can eat that and you can taste how flavourful it is. And they're stronger and more peppery. But again, that's not the kind of thing that you can get from an Amazon Fresh because they won't put that on that shelf because it won't last for them. But by having it here in Camden, people often ask what our sort of, are we going to scale? Are we going to create a big old factory for this place? And the answer is that's not what we want to do. So we want to, rather than taking this into a big out-of-town place, what we'll do is lots of smaller places. Traditionally, there used to be a pub and a church on every corner. We think there should be a pub and a little farm on every corner. People should, instead of going to the grocery store where they see all their imported stuff coming in, they should be able to just pop to their local farm on the corner and just have stuff directly harvested and given to them. It also means we can serve local communities better because we don't have to do sort of standardised product ranges that go across the whole country. We can do what people want in the area. So if someone comes here and asks for something, we can grow it straight away. I mean, this is actually, this is an example of some seeds that some gentleman brought in for us the other day. People bring us seeds and we'll learn how to grow them for them. And then we'll tell them how to do it. It's democratising it. This is no different to growing cress on a bit of toilet paper like you did when you were a kid. It's a bigger scale. And it shouldn't be seen as some weird scientific mystery. It's just water and seeds.
And, I mean, what's the potential for growing other things?
So it's interesting because it raises some interesting questions about what we eat and why we eat it. Given space around here, we can grow anything that a normal farm could. Would we necessarily want to is a different question. So if you consider a fruit or some tomatoes, we can grow things like that, but we have to think about it kind of in terms of resources, which is important now. Is it correct to grow a huge plant for a few bits of fruit and then just chuck it all away just to have a few pretty cherry tomatoes? There's a place for these things in our diet, but we have to think what things are delicious and nutritious and we can grow that serve our resources correctly. I'm not saying don't eat tomatoes because they're unethical, but I'm saying the supermarkets have loaded us to such a point where we expect certain things to be here. I mean, I can grow a mango inside under lights. Should I grow mangoes here? It'd be fun to try, but is another question. So, yeah, we can grow anything under the lights because they work well at the sun. We can work anything out here, but I think it's interesting because there's always been a history of sort of heritage vegetables, seed banks in the UK, where we're traditionally very, very good at that, even back to kind of Victorian botanists collecting their seeds and doing all that. And I think there could potentially be a bit of a resurgence of these old crops, these things that were taken out by the standardisation of the food markets that we can actually start attacking here. So who knows what this opens up? There potentially could be lots of weird crops growing in the future that we're not even thinking of right now.
And I mean, I've thought to myself, I mean, I see the government as a ruthless bunch of actors who are acting on behalf of some super rich families, basically. So I don't expect them to do anything that's going to benefit us all. That's not what they're here to do. So it's no surprise that they don't do this. But I'm sure you'd agree that if they actually cared about us, if they cared about the people, then this should surely be one of the first strategies they should be putting in place with this whole story of the pandemic. I don't know how much you go with the story. I certainly question most of it, even calling it a pandemic. But their strategy during this time, surely there's now, because of what's going on, there must be loads of office spaces all over the place and retail places that have closed down. If they really cared about us and our future, then this surely should be an absolute top priority. While when we see the beginning of a breakdown of the supply chain, surely this is something that should be implemented everywhere, as quickly as possible.
So recently there was a new update to the agricultural policy of the UK, and they are, in general, looking at more localised production. I think what we see here on the ground is where there are well-meaning intentions in some areas of governments to do these things. I think it has to echo down into the streets. So it's going to take time for Camden Council to understand how they feel about an arable farm. I mean, we're the first arable farm in this part of London. It's and there was questions like, well, are you a restaurant? Well, no, we're not. We only know how to do the health inspections for a restaurant. We're like, well, no, we're a primary producer. That's different. You know, there are certain questions, but we see this as a model that will work, and it doesn't necessarily need support or legislation, because actually it's correct. We do need food. We do have a problem with supply chains. We do have a problem with the dependency we have on shipping things internationally. I mean, you know, even if they're not going with the greatest eco intentions in the world, fuel prices are going up. You can't run all these things on electricity. It's going to get harder to ship, you know, X number of tons of apples from New Zealand. So it becomes a sort of a self-evident strategy. So it's not whether or not it gets support, it's just, it's inevitable. It has to be, otherwise it'll become more and more, you know, people are saying, oh, well, we should get used to a future where there's less things on the shelves. Well, we should get used to a future where there are things on glowing shelves and things that we don't really think about eating right now. You know, you get a bag of peas because you can dry a bag of peas or you can freeze a bag of peas. They shit, but these are better for you. So it's about, you know, I don't know if it needs support. I think it's just the correct thing. If people want it, and the interesting thing is that it looks strange to people. It looks rather alien, but when you tasted that a second ago, it tastes good, huh? Like, it tastes fresh.
Yeah.
You know, it tastes like it's come from the field, because it has. It's just the field is here.
Yeah. and who are your customers and at the moment?
Anyone will buy it.
Right.
So we work for we do local farmers markets, and it's quite fun because we go to the local farmers markets around here, and yeah, most of the people there aren't farmers, but we're actually farmers, and and everyone's talking about local produce, and we are the only real local produce. So we're trying to, we want to really go sort of hyper local. The population density is so much here that we can just go to local greengrocers or local farmers markets or local restaurants. We're even in talks with to take this to the next stage. So we can grow stuff here, we can take it to a restaurant, or we can take it to an office, you know, for their salad bar or whatever. But why bother? Why not just set up a rack there and we just come and stock it for it to grow? So it's even less of a supply chain. I mean, we don't even have to deliver the stuff. They grow it actually there in situ. And I think there's an important thing there, you know, apart from the fact that it looks quite cool and it, you know, makes for an easier model for us, but having people being able to touch their stuff, you know, feel the food, be a bit more in contact with it. There is this weird thing we find when we sell it to people that there is still, as a plant, yeah, but you can eat it. So it's salad. Yeah, but that's, you know, there's a psychological disconnect between it. People get it, they're not thick. It's just, we're so used to seeing it bagged up that it becomes a, you know, people ask us, oh, well, what do I do with that? Do I take it home and grow it? And I say, well, no, you take it home and eat it. So, yeah, but anyone really. I mean, I think it will go across the board here because there is a desire, and we're getting loads of people asking for it now. Yeah, it's just trying to think about different products and different crops. You know, we shouldn't be growing fields and fields of wheat in here. Some crops are, you know, should be grown out in fields and should be grown in these mass things like staples and such. But other things, supplementary things that are hyper seasonal, yeah, we can grow here because we have a season every 2 weeks. You know, we don't have winter, we have a timer clock, which makes it a lot more sustainable.
Are there any grants available for this type of thing from the government?
Not that we're aware of so far. We've been doing a lot of research. There's a lot of agricultural grants, but we don't have dry stone walls or hedgerows here. Right. We also don't have the ability to leave a quarter of our land fallow for a period of time. I mean, I can stick a tray in the car park, but I don't think that would count. So, yeah, I mean, the agricultural system has been set up for such a long period of time that, of course, it's entrenched in a way of doing it. I mean, you know, okay, people have been growing stuff like this since the 60s, but now I think it's the birth of LED technology and like the fact that, I mean, these are on, but they're not even warm. They're so efficient that we have and it's consumer stuff. I mean, this is not rocket science. These are all, you know, readily available, cheap stuff. You can rack here, it's eBay. I mean, the work and the love comes from us working out, you know, what the different plants like and their kind of nuances and such. But, you know, I think the sector opportunities and people understanding and giving grants will come when especially local governments become aware of these things, and as we know, these things take time.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Cool.
What's your name, by the way?
Johnny.
Johnny. Thank you very much, Johnny. Wish you really the best of luck with this amazing project. Absolutely amazing. Thank you.